Thanks,
Craig.
So basically, as you create the victim narrative in Capital around race, and what Dick Cheney did, right? Here's why Dick Cheney is the problem behind IDPOL. Here's why Republicans should hate Dick Cheney. Here's why everyone should hate Dick Cheney, except but that he's a murderer. So as we create, except but that he's a murderer, as we create the narrative around the victimization of a certain class or a group, right? Around an identity. When we say that Black people are the victims in this country because they are spat on everywhere they go. Well, for starters, we have now created the perception that they are spat on everywhere they go. So now guess what starts happening? People start spitting on them. But more importantly, to create an identity within capitalism, right? You only have essentially one method to do so, which is consumption. Because ultimately, even as an artist, if I create art that tells a narrative, in capitalism, it tells that narrative only insofar as you consume the art. I don't actually have any productive power over my own art because it is a representation of what I have around me, which doesn't matter unless someone else sees it. Yes, this is very unfortunate. This is not all art. This is just art under capital. Anyway, so because the only way that we know to represent ourselves and the only way that is given to us to represent ourselves in capital, and specifically in a liberal democracy, and especially in a neoliberal democracy, we have to do so through consumption, and we have to go buy a product, right? We buy all the time. We buy things from organizations we like. We buy things from candidates we like. We buy bumper stickers. We buy posters. I think Bernie sold a really fun hoodie and a rain jacket. And so there's no commodity that you can go out and buy, right, that is anti-racist.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy a shirt that says I love Black people, but that shirt was made by a fucking 15-year-old mother of two in fucking rural Alabama. And she lives in a fucking trailer park. And she's probably single, and she probably wears fucking slides to work every day because she can't afford fucking shoes because she lives in rural Alabama. Makes t-shirts. So the issue is that what's happened, right, over time is the parties have typified. And by typified, I mean that the modern Democratic Party was supposed to be a big tent party. In party realignment in America, what we saw was that the group of people who were open to integrating schools became the modern Democratic Party. And the group of people who were opposed to integration of schools became the modern Republican Party. But because this was in the middle of the Cold War, both parties had to nominally agree that they would only ever fight on the lines of culture. And also that they would both essentially use the same funding sources. The only difference being whether those sources were not open to being used by Blacks, because of course they don't care who buys their product, but whether or not they were open to supporting Blacks and minority identities or not. At least insofar as a marketing tactic. And so what that means is that as the parties developed, they could not disagree about economics. You will never see anyone go on the Senate floor and argue on either side of the trade deficit. You will never see anyone go on the Senate floor and argue to close Guantanamo Bay. You will never see anyone go on the Senate floor and say that we need to stop having prison labor. Because these are economic decisions that the country has to agree on. Because the secret behind both parties, and why both parties are the same, is the problem of Dick Cheney. The executive in this country has over time amassed a very high level of power. Much of this power has been seized, yes, from other federal departments, but in a more important lens, it has been seized from state level governments. There is no reason for the single meaningful coronavirus task force in this country, which, yep, there goes my fucking YouTube money this episode, because I said the bad word. All the money, right? The only reason that's the only task force is the federal run by Fauci, who is homophobic and a piece of shit, is that all the power has been seized from state healthcare industries, basically. State level DHEC cannot fight against it because state level DHEC doesn't really have permission anymore. And that was all given up to the feds, who then gave it to the executive instead of keeping it in Congress. And they did this because both parties want a more powerful Fed, and more specifically, more powerful executive office, because the financials of the country, while being moderated by the Congress, are run by the executive. They are an office and a branch of the executive powers. And what that means is that the president can essentially appoint whoever the fuck he wants, be Fed chair, etc. And if he can't appoint the Fed chair, he'll appoint everybody under him, and then it doesn't matter. And so as they've expanded executive power, both parties have realized that they cannot, that in order to keep up the ruse, right, the progressive, constitutionalist, conservative ruse, they cannot ever let the people know that it's going on. And in preserving the people from knowing that it's going on, they have to have fail-safes. That fail-safe in modern America is the vice executive. It's the vice president. Which brings in Dick Cheney. And how Dick Cheney relates to IDPOL is that as we have expanded the powers of the executive, and more specifically the vice executive, to the point that essentially Joe Biden probably ran more of Obama's White House than Obama did. Probably, if I was going to guess. And I would also venture to say that if not, who the fuck is the VP again?
Mike Pence.
Mike Pence. Oh yeah, micro penis Pence. If Mike Shock the Gays micro penis Pence is not the operating executive of this country, then Q probably really is. And what I mean by that is it's probably someone who we have no fucking clue about. It actually might be Sex State. Now I think about it. It'll be someone in some really bizarre executive office, right? Because what happened to the executive is that it became a matter of identity, and it became a matter of culture war to see who the president would be. And this became notable with Al Gore. Gore was the last presidential candidate who gave a shit. If you did not vote Gore, okay, let me rephrase this. If you voted for the right third party in 2000, God bless you. If you voted Gore, you're a decent human being. If you voted Bush, you're a motherfucker, son of a bitch. Your mama don't love you. Because what Gore basically was going to do, and the reason Gore couldn't be allowed to win, was he would reveal to the people that there are bigger antagonisms than identity, notably the fucking environment and the world flooding and us all boiling to death. And other countries have realized this over time. This is essentially the basis behind the EU. Is that once you reach a too powerful executive, you have to shift power backwards without revealing it to people, so that you can expand the executive as a socio-political institution without it being an economic political institution. Which is why Obama became president amidst the fucking 2008 crisis. And everything he said he was going to do, including fucking Medicare for all, didn't happen. Because he was only allowed to be elected because he was black, and because they didn't want a fucking civil war when everyone lost their homes. But they got bailed out then, right? And they got bailed out of that because they had liquid capital from drug money. Basically, if you don't know, they called the fucking cartels that the CIA runs, and they said, hey, we need a lot of liquid capital to come into the market very rapidly. We will excuse a lot of you if you will come do this. And the only cartel that said no was Chapo Guzman.
Ooh.
And that is why El Chapo's in prison. But El Chapo will be free soon. I guarantee it. And that is my promise to the American people. What?
He'll get out. He will.
He's going to get out. He's not going to be in prison for long. Ain't no way in hell. He didn't do no crime. Nothing wrong. While we're on the topic of people who never did no crime, free my nigga Manuel Ruben Abimal Guzman Reynoso, aka free Chairman Gonzalo. He never did shit.
Babies were never boiled.
No baby was ever boiled by a Maoist. We just got canceled. Go ahead.
Yeah, we did. I guess that the conclusion I'm missing is that even after all this Trump stuff, where people like even Nancy Pelosi were yelling at him for things that he did through evil institutions, and the focus sometimes was even on those institutions, like with the Border Patrol thing, and his little secret police in Portland, is that people don't really care. This hasn't made them realize anything. It's still culture. It's as long as you don't say the quiet part loud, you have to be better.
The bigger crime here, or at least the bigger, you're right. You're mostly right. But I would almost venture to say that the next level of the issue is actually to make a culture that is opposed to physical violence, but will enact psychic violence on itself and therefore govern itself. What I'm
talking about, like cancel culture?
That, but even deeper, it goes deeper than that. What I'm saying is, we have a society, we live in a society that basically,
Keep joking.
that's the joke. That basically, so you watch CNN. I want you to imagine you are a very old Jim Clyburn. So you are my father. And you watch CNN.
Okay.
And every time you see Trump, all you can think is Orange Man bad. That's it. That's it. That's it. If you hear his name, you yell Orange Man bad. Because it's been ingrained into you that this is your civic participation. It's your own private problems with him. You don't donate to candidates. You don't volunteer for candidates. You don't text for candidates. You don't even answer fucking polls when they call you. But you know Orange Man bad. And you say, oh, it's awful what he's doing in Portland. But guess what? It doesn't fucking matter what voters think. Because these voters have no civic participation. All they do is fucking vote. Because all that's been ingrained into them since 1960 is that you just show up and vote, and somehow that matters. Which is why they're so adamant against the Marxists, the anarchists, people who...
The rioters.
People who, in many situations, have absolutely no idea what they're doing. They're against them, not necessarily because what they say is bad, but it is for them. But because they need civic participation to be a club sport. If you hear something, right? So even, okay, there's a Cheeto in the White House. Let's make this the statement, right? Cheeto in the White House.
Cheeto alert.
Cheeto alert. He's getting fucking Cheeto dust all over our historical monument, the White House. You now have you naturally have one of two options. You go hit the Cheeto in the White House, or you support the Cheeto in the White House. But systematically, both parties have created a culture that says that instead of hitting the Cheeto in the White House, which historically is how change happens, You just stay at home and you don't
Yeah.
and you complain to yourself quietly. This is the British version of you.
Genius.
This is why Americans
Yes.
are the most fucking cucked people.
Yes. Because hating him is enough.
Because hating him is enough. And also going on fucking TikTok and doing a dance and saying that he's canceled. They'll change the result of the election enough that Microsoft has to buy TikTok.
Yes. Wow. Well, and you said earlier about how you think that the only, meaningful expression that you can be to be anti-racist in this country is through consumption, but I think also through your one organized political activity, which is voting, you can also prove that you aren't racist.
Who the fuck are you gonna
Kicking
vote?
out the Cheeto. Joe Biden
Oh, I'm sorry.
does not get the Cheeto dust all over the upholstery in the White House. He doesn't build a wall. And obviously, and to the liberal, in the liberal mind, rhetoric, cultural rhetoric is everything. And rhetoric to them does have real world impacts, but rhetoric has more impact than action in the liberal mind. So when you see someone who has that racist rhetoric, everything they're saying must be happening. All of the evil institutional violence, psychic violence, physical violence that we as socialists have known has been going on has been realized because he says it is. And then you get somebody like Joe Biden whose rhetoric does not normally entail racist things unless it's by accident, when poor kids are just as smart and just as talented as white kids. And thus the violence suddenly disappears. It's gone. If you don't say that things are racist, if you don't say that the institutions that you support are still doing violence against the marginalized people you claim to care so much about, then it's not happening. Because the liberal world is made of rhetoric and civility. So.
Exactly.
And that's why it really doesn't matter. It's just rhetorical difference between two people who do the exact same things really isn't a huge difference at all. Like it doesn't realize itself in the real world. The only thing that I haven't been able to reconcile myself about with Joe Biden has been the judicial system. And the idea that maybe if we get one good federal judge from Mr. Robinette himself, then maybe women will still have abortion rights in this country. That's been the only irreconcilable part for me to vote for Biden. That's really the debate. It's either we have liberal complacency as it was in under Obama, and history is over again, or we have.
This podcast called The Cool Zone. If history ends again, I gotta shut it down.
We're out of work. We're out of work. If Joe Biden wins, we are out of work.
Whoa. Joe Biden will not turn history back off. Joe Biden will probably start a cold war.
He will.
With China. No, he won't. He'll start a cold war with damn China.
Yeah, but I mean,
now question.
Well, I guess you're right.
Do you expect that Joe Biden will make a Supreme Court appointee, and also that when he does so, he will pick someone that will then protect reproductive rights?
At the very least, I think so. I mean, that's like the only requisite to be a liberal judge on the Supreme Court is to not hate gay people and to be pro-choice.
He's not going to get to appoint a liberal judge.
You don't think? You don't think RBG's finally going to keel over?
Oh, she's gonna die. She'll step down as soon as he gets elected. That's not the problem. The problem is that the Republicans are not gonna lose the Senate. They'll just wait 4 years. 4 years with 8 fucking judges.
What about in the lower court systems and the circuits?
Those are all
Do
full.
you really think they'll just? Somebody's gonna have to die.
Okay, so here's what happened to the lower courts. I guess vaguely briefly. Yeah, it's just gonna be a long ass show. So basically, what happened to the lower
We can cut some.
Was that so you know how we said the progressive line, the constitutionalist line, the conservative line. Okay. So the conservative line agrees with people like me who say that you should just pack the courts because fuck the courts. Because they don't fucking matter. I mean, they do, they don't. Like it's not even a thing. Because all that matters is what happens. Courts don't change what happens.
Yeah.
Change what's said about it after the fact. And so what happens is that the liberals are not going to pack the courts. If they gave a shit, right, then they would follow the Bernie plan, which was to add at least 4 Supreme Court justices within the presidency. And you could do that even if there was a Republican Senate majority, because you would just make deals with them, and A, and B, appoint them, and then have them go sit in fucking offices in the Supreme Court building and weigh in on cases and dare someone to do something about it. What the fuck are they going to do? They're going to go kill them? Okay, get more. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, I mean, and that would have happened if Bernie won, but it doesn't ignore the reality now that, you know, liberals are not going to pack the court, and that I mean, in the current climate anyway, like Joe Biden could win, and RBG would step down. He would appoint, even let's say the Senate agrees, and he appoints a liberal judge. Like, abortion rights in this country are still at a high risk. The only thing slowing the complete retraction of those rights is John Roberts, who wants to play his little game and smart about it, rather than, you know, Clarence Thomas and the rest of them who would rather just strip it away at a moment's notice.
I can vaguely promise you that abortion rights in this country will not deteriorate any further, because then there would be no culture war, and then the evangelicals would be able to move to the Democratic side.
Does Brett Kavanaugh know that?
Kavanaugh's very aware of the culture war. He did. That was his dissertation.
Oh, that's an interesting perspective then. Because I mean, what would culture war be at that point? Black Lives Matter? I mean,
the only reason the evangelicals are in the Republican Party is because of abortion.
Totally right. Yeah, I've definitely heard people say that before. I've gone up to people and talked to them about Trump.
Yeah, the moment that abortion shifts, and the reason it never can is because at that exact moment, black evangelicals will take over and probably just make a fucking third party that's called like the Life Party or some bullshit, and then the rig is up, the jig is up, the game the fucking American politics topples. Even if it's a party that's like a 10%er party. Like, can you imagine a fucking 10%er party in modern American politics?
Wow.
That was just the religious center. The hyper-religious Protestant center. Gooey with a side of mental side of illiteracy.
Right. I don't know if that's, well, it would be nice to see the collapse of the American political system anyway.
Even if the revolution started tomorrow, America will probably it'll probably balkanize and do a it'll do a Roman Republic. It'll balkanize and do a Roman Republic. There will be a Holy Roman Empire of America.
In the United States.
1,000 years from now, and it'll just be Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. Still
Smart.
states. Still not states.
Huh. Well, it does seem pretty bleak. Any words of hope?
You hope. Well,
Well,
wasn't that
that's hope.
Obama's thing? It's hope.
Hope, yeah.
Change. Just single words. Jamie Harrison's
Change of suit, tan suit, baby.
tan suit, fucking mustard. Jamie Harrison's slogan is "This isn't about left versus right; it's about right versus wrong." Wow! Don't vote. That's all. We should record tomorrow. We should just record tomorrow. Are you off tomorrow?
I'm off tomorrow.